Good evening. Welcome to Leary City Council meeting for Monday, November 20th, 23. At this time, we'll do a moment of reflective silence, followed by the Pledge of Allegiance. For the Pledge of Allegiance, Caleb, would you please come up? These young men in our audience here is going to lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance. Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you, Caleb. If you could please turn your phones to silent or in the off mode for the council meeting, be greatly appreciated. Ms. Clerk, I have roll call, please.
Yes, sir. Mr. Callahan.
Here.
Mr. Sira.
Here.
Mr. Oswald.
Here.
Mr. Corbin.
Here.
Mrs. Mitchell.
Here.
Mr. Tollett.
Here.
Mr. Lippian.
Here.
Mrs. Davis.
Here.
Mrs. Simmons.
Here.
Mr. Schneider.
Here.
Mr. Stewart.
Here.
All present.
Public hearings.
There are none.
Can I get approval of the minutes?
So moved.
Moved by Mr. Sarah, second by Mr. Snares. Is there any further discussion?
Question.
All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. Motion carried. Remarks and reports on city officials. Mayor Whitfield.
Thank you, Council President, and to City Council and to the residents, good evening. First off, I want to thank all the residents that went out and voted on November 7th. Definitely a historic turnout for the city. Unfortunately, it didn't work out in my favor, but definitely still committed to making sure that we leave the city better than what we found it and making sure that there's a smooth transition. I had the chance to meet with Mayor-elect Brubaker already and start to discuss some of the transition plans, so hopefully those will be smooth for the city. A couple updates I do have for you all in terms of city business that's happening right now. Tomorrow we're hosting a town hall in here at 6 p.m. There's been some concerns around the issue of homelessness in the city and in the county. So we're bringing those different programs and services here to council chambers tomorrow at 6 o'clock to talk about what the current status is of homelessness in the county, the opportunities to get involved, and here's some ideas and solutions around how we can address this from a long-term standpoint. So again, that's tomorrow here at 6 o'clock. In terms of just some city business, Director Lundy is unable to be here tonight. He's actually with Chief Pernesti. They're in Lorraine, talking with their city council about our radio transition. So I'm sure they'll have an update for you soon. But some of the updates he wanted to provide were around the leaf collection, that it's going well, that they are going to continue to do the leaf collection process. Again, we're encouraging our residents not to mix limbs, tree limbs and branches with the leaves. And then giving a special shout out to everybody who helped out with the Veterans Day. We had an amazing event downtown for Veterans Day. The Rev 22 run and walk. We were proud to have that happening here in the city, so thank you to those organizers. We also shut down Middle Avenue to give people a chance to take a picture next to their banners on Middle Avenue. So that was special as well, seeing the families out there taking pictures next to their loved one's banner. And then lastly, we're going to be having another way that we're honoring our veterans, partnering with the Elyria Council of Veterans. We're going to have a Christmas tree here, or 3 Christmas trees here in City Hall. So if you have a veteran, a loved one that you want to recognize, please reach out to our office and we'll make sure we get them an ornament recognizing them here in City Hall. I'm here for any questions.
Any questions for the mayor? Mr. Oswald?
Through you, Mr. President, I just want to make a comment on a meeting that's going on tomorrow. And the person that passed away in the park, Cascade, was a homeless person. And on Facebook, there must have been, as soon as one person posted something, there was probably over 150 posts on we should do this and we can do that, and we're doing this and we're doing that. And all these things for the last couple of days, I'm thinking about this, and I'm like, you know what? You need somebody that could spearhead this and get everybody together so you're all working as one team, not little individual satellites. And this person stepped up, must have got a hold of you, and made this meeting happen. Now, it's going to be a challenge, and it can work. The mayor of San Francisco right now is going through that, and I've seen a good interview, and they're trying to tackle those tough questions, but it's something that you just don't fix. It's always around, and you always have to maintain it. So hopefully we get some good dialogue and something happens. Thanks.
Thank you, Mr. Oswald. Mr. Lippian?
Thank you. Through you, Mr. President, I just wanted to state, I believe that individual is Octavia Maynard, and I went to high school with her. She's a great gal, and also I think we should recognize the efforts of Tiffany Reedy from Ward 1. Obviously, homelessness is very close to her heart as well. And this individual lived on the other side of the Amtrak tracks. And we were fortunate enough to get Neighborhood Alliance to reach out to the community that lives over there a few weeks prior to her passing and offer services. But unfortunately, whenever a member of our community goes down, whether the most exalted among us or the most humble, it's always heartbreaking. So I look forward to seeing what we can do as a city and a community to help address this challenge.
Any other questions? Assistant Safety Service Director, Ms. Calvert?
Good evening. I have a couple of updates. I just wanted to mention that MS Consultants will be here on Monday to discuss our status with the comprehensive land use plan. They are incorporating a tremendous amount of feedback that they got over the summer and continue to collect. So that will be a great presentation for City Council and the community to understand all the work that's been done so far and finally begin to see how it's coming together. And after Monday night's meeting, we will be going through an extensive public comment period. So we're going to be looking for as many ways to incorporate the feedback on everything we've learned so far and thoughts on what the future land use district should be. So we're going to be looking to do online activities for the community as well as have paper copies available of that activity so people without computer access can take advantage of that and we can get as much input as possible again on this process. The second item I wanted to discuss was we were very pleased to see 4 proposals submitted to the Lorain County Port Authority for the redevelopment of Midway Mall. Even more excited to see that some of those proposals are from names that we know and different organizations and companies that we've had relationships with for several years. So very much looking forward to seeing how that progresses.
Okay, very good. Any questions for Ms. Calvert? I see that Safety Service Director Lundy has just walked in with Chief Pernesti. Mr. Lundy, do you want to, for your comments at this time, or you want to? You can come over. Yeah, you can go over here. It's fine. I didn't think, the mayor thought maybe you might be able to share a couple things, but I'll give you your spotlight there.
Oh, the spotlight. Wow, thanks. Yeah, the chief and I attended a meeting over in Lorain, so that's why we're running a little bit late. But first, just want to say that the dry weather was really working well for us, so that we could make quite a dent into the leaf collection. I think we all know that that's a challenge because Mother Nature decides when the leaves are going to drop. I think the heavy rain and the winds that we had on Friday certainly helped out. You know, some of these dry days here are certainly making it possible for us to make another dent into things. I guess I just want folks to know that, you know, once we hit an area, generally the rule of thumb is we get back to that area about 5 or 6 days later. You know, and I know it's never soon enough for everybody because once you get out on the tree line, you want them picked up right away. But I think we've made very good progress, thank goodness to the dry weather. But like I said, that heavy rain and winds that we had on Friday kind of put things on pause a little bit, but we're able to regroup and start hitting things again with this nice spell of weather we have now. We plan on, you know, continuing to go as far into the season as we can, but, you know, we start getting into the that SNOW word in December. Obviously, that puts a little bit of a damper on things. The other thing was, just wanted to mention about the, the amazing work our departments did for the Rev 22, for the race, for the veterans, to call attention to the suicide rate of veterans. And, I say it all the time about the department heads here and the employees. We're so blessed in this city, have such an amazing team of people who want to get the work done and always step up to meet the challenge. And the organizers of the race, they couldn't be happier. The police department was amazing, Chief. I got to tell you, they were very complimentary of your whole crew. Our street department people were amazing. I didn't know we had that many barricades, but we managed to get them out and get them all into the right locations. And that required, some staffing issues and things like that to make sure everything was fully staffed. But everybody stepped up. It was really great seeing the families that had the opportunity to check out the banners down on Middle. That was really neat to see, and, the families were very appreciative. They were able to get near those banners, take photos with their families, and brought back, a lot of memories for them, some good memories of their loved ones. But, anytime there's a challenge, this team knows how to step up, meet that challenge, and get the job done. And just want to thank you to all of them, and how proud all of us in Elyria should be of the department heads and the city employees that we have on our team.
Thank you. Any questions for Mr. Lundy? Thank you, Mr. Lundy. Assistant Finance Director, Mr. Farrell.
No report this evening, Mr. President.
Law Director Deary.
Good evening through you, Mr. President. Just a few things. First, I've laid on the table this evening a proposed ordinance, and it's an amendment to 2023-146. Inadvertently, the vendor was misidentified. There are apparently quite a few Blacking Beaches registered with the Ohio Secretary of State. We're requesting that this would be addressed later on and added to the agenda for purposes of adhering to the project deadlines of the water treatment plant improvements and upgrades. So just bringing that to your attention. Also, I'm requesting an executive session this evening. I don't anticipate that it will take very long. However, that obviously will be up to you. And that is to address pending litigation in federal court, and we have a proposed resolution to that. Obviously, that will be at your discretion as well, and would request potential action to follow that. One last thing, Mr. Attorney Sufjan Dola has departed my office. It is bittersweet. After much reflection, he and his family have decided to relocate to be closer to family in Tennessee. His license was just approved there through their highest court, and he has found employment there. So his last day was actually last week. So with that, I will be posting and looking for not a replacement for him, but someone who will be doing his work. So I wanted to let you all know that. We wish him well. And with that, as always, I'm available for questions, and if not, you know where to find me.
Any questions for the Law Director? Ms. Deary. Elyria Police Department, Chief Pelko.
Good evening. I just wanted to mention a week from today, from 11 to 7 o'clock at the Elyria Police Department, we are going to be handing out steering wheel clubs for owners of Kia or Hyundais. We're starting to see a little uptick in some of those stolen vehicles. We reached out to the companies. We've got the steering wheel locks, and they will be available to residents from 11 a.m. to 7 p.m. at the Elyria Police Department. Just bring your ID showing you're a resident of Elyria and your registration. We'll see how that goes. If we have more left over, we will give some more dates, or we'll have people just come to the station, provide their ID and registration to the officer on charge on station, and we'll get them a lock so they can secure their car so it doesn't get stolen. With that said, Thanksgiving is around the corner. I want to wish everybody a happy Thanksgiving. Please keep in mind, one of the most highest traveling days of the year, so just be careful traveling, leave early, and have patience when you're driving. So with that said, I'll entertain any questions.
Any questions for the chief? Thank you, Chief. Elyria Fire Department, Chief Pernesti. Miss Scott? Community Development? Any questions for Ms. Scott? And then Ms. McKillips, Engineering? I know you're hiding back there.
Good evening. I just have a quick update on East Broad Street. Today we started paving the intermediate course of asphalt on the west end of the project. We are hopeful that the weather cooperates and that we'll be able to get the surface course on that same section completed probably not Wednesday, but probably Friday. So the day after Thanksgiving, chances are we'll have crews in town working. And then once we get that surface course in, concrete crews will be back to complete the drive approaches on the south side. And then after that work is completed, we may be able to open up that west end of East Broad Street to two-way traffic. We'll see the timing of that, but we're getting close, at least on that west end. Real quick on Cleveland Street, that project is getting buttoned up for the winter. I don't think we're going to be doing any more paving on that section, but you know, we have a lot more work to get done come spring. So, and then contractor may be teetering with some other bits and pieces of the project, so there may be lane closures here and there periodically. But Gina in our office will keep everyone apprised to that. Other than that, I have no other updates.
Any questions for Ms. McKillips? Mr. Lippian?
Thank you, through you, Mr. President. Engineer McKillips, I had some residents reach out to me that were having difficulty getting out of their driveways due to the East Broad Street reconstruction. I heard some of them recount that they saw some neighbors driving through the backyards to egress because they couldn't get out from their backyard, through their driveway. Do you understand perhaps what might have contributed to that as a factor and how we might avoid that for next year's East Broad Street project?
Well, I do know that many of the residents were either ramped into their driveways. I think a couple may have had plates crossing their driveways in order so they could get in and out. I know we received a complaint from one resident on the 200 block that there was a time when they needed to get out, so the contractor quickly accommodated them to get them, you know, access, ingress and egress. We also received the address that you forwarded today. That one, unfortunately, I wasn't able to get any specific information for that one address. But at the beginning of November, residents were handed information on how to, or what to do, you know, when there's times when there wouldn't be no access to their property. For example, if concrete curb and gutter is being poured across the driveway, obviously there's going to be a period of time where there's no access, and that may be 2 to 3 days if we're using a fast set concrete. In that case, residents usually try to work with the neighbors either next to them or across the street. In this case, you know, obviously it's too late, but, you know, had we known sooner, and there was a period of time where he couldn't access his driveway, we could have had him parking over at the fire station because he's right across the street. But we're willing to work with residents as much as possible, but we need to know what the, you know, what the issues are when they're happening so that we can, you know, try to accommodate, you know, as much as possible.
Thanks, through you, Mr. President. As a quick follow-up, do you have an estimated time of completion for this half of East Broad Street, or is that still up in the air?
For the east half, did you say? West
The
half?
part up to Prospect.
The surface course of paving will take place, hopefully weather cooperating, this Friday. And then it'll probably be, let's say, a couple weeks for all the drive approaches on that south side to get completed. Once that's all completed, then they'll look at opening up travel on that side of the project. So as soon as the pavement's completed, so the following week of Thanksgiving, the concrete crew should be in town, weather cooperating, to get started on those remaining concrete tasks.
Mr. Lippiatt, any more?
So as of right now, we don't have an anticipated completion date, but we understand when the concrete for the remainder will be poured, hopefully weather depending, after Thanksgiving. So we're hoping that the project gets done thoroughly and as soon as possible. So thanks for the update, engineer.
Any other questions? Thank you, Ms. McKillips. I think that's everybody. Okay. President's referrals and remonstrances. Item number 1, community development. Item number 2, community development. Item number 3, finance. Item number 4, finance. Item number 5, finance. Items 6 through 9 received and placed on file in the clerk's office. Petitions and remonstrances from the lobby.
We have a few. Carol Hobart, 440 Olivet Drive. Subject, police pay.
Welcome. Please state your name and address for the record.
Carol Hobart, 440 Olivet Drive. I'm here to talk about better competitive pay for our police officers. This was brought up at the last committee meeting, and you were showing our officers' pay compared to surrounding communities. I was shocked at the pay difference. Council talks about what this is going to cost the city. I'm asking what it's costing us now. We train new recruits only to have them leave for better paying jobs in other cities. Our police department is short-staffed, and this will not improve without this pay raise. They protect us. Don't you think they deserve a decent pay? Thank you.
Scott Sarazin, 346 Rutgers Court. Subject, Kiwanis Club Park Bench in Ely Square.
Welcome. Please state your name and address for the record.
Scott Sarazin, 346 Rutgers Court, Elyria. I'm here somewhat reluctantly, but I've been delegated by the Elyria Kiwanis Club to come and ask a question that they don't seem to be able to get an answer on, and that is, a few years ago, we sponsored a bench for the fountain project, and it was put up, and sometime this summer, it was vandalized and destroyed, and then the slats on it were removed. It was taken away, and some of the members were requesting information with regard to when it was going to be replaced, and the answer they got was that it wasn't even a sure thing that it would be replaced. And I wondered if, as safety service director's job is to, be a steward for the property of the city of Elyria, whether this has been referred to legislation, whether there has been a prosecution of the vandals, because I know there's footage of everything that goes on in the park, and just where that stands. I'm assuming, and I try to explain to them, I'm assuming that it will be replaced, but the timing and the effort, to replace it is in question. I wondered if someone could look into that And maybe I can assure our members that, you know, the bench with our name on it will be replaced.
Mr. Lundy, if you would please meet with Mr. Saracen either after, to just kind of give him an update, or if you can kind of look into it and then respond back to where that's at. It'd be greatly appreciated.
Thank you.
Tiffany Reedy, 113 William Street, subject homelessness.
Welcome. Please state your name and address for the record.
Tiffany Reedy, 113 William Street, Elyria. Oh, okay, so where to start? The homelessness issue obviously has grown, but to give you kind of some numbers to think about. So pre-pandemic, approximately, it's hard to really get an accurate number, but about 6% each year was the growth in homeless population. Enter the pandemic. In 2020, the projection of an increase in homelessness was 45 to 50%. And we are seeing that all over the place. This isn't just by where I live. It's all over the city. It's all over the country. And it's definitely not just a black and white situation. It's not your stereotypical mental illness, drug-induced situation. Those things do still exist, and they are big drivers. But since the pandemic, domestic violence is another huge driver now. We have a lot of women that are leaving some serious situations, and I met one from New York that's here in Elyria with her daughter. So we have families too. You're not going to see a lot of these people when you're out driving, but we have families that are in cars in parking lots. And in their worst times right now, if they have children, they don't want to be seen because they're fearful that their children will be taken away. The other thing from the pandemic that's driving this now is predatory leasing. We have landlords that are making laundry lists of requirements for you to be able to rent. Things like a 5-year rental history without a spot, whatever your criminal background is. If you have anything, even if you weren't charged for it, you're not living there. They want you to make 5 times the amount of rent they're asking. And it's still also an issue of out-of-state LLCs being another thing. So all that to say, we no longer have, you know, the cartoonish hobo hopping off a train. I'm looking at whole family. I had a mother and a father and a 5-year-old little girl come to my house to that blessing box. I don't think I would have ever seen that. Homelessness. I used to be homeless before I had my children, and my father died in the square here in downtown because he fell through the cracks. And despite my best efforts with all the resources, I hit walls every time, and I couldn't help him. So all that to say, there are some things that I feel like we need to look at, and that's kind of why I'm here to talk to you, is because as this is growing, we cannot use the same things we've been doing prior to the pandemic to address it. We need to adjust it. And to speak to the young lady that died in the park, I spoke with her. That didn't have to happen. I started that conversation October 3rd. It could have been avoided, and I'm sorry it wasn't, and we'll move forward from that, but I don't want to see it happen again. These nonprofits always seek the same funding, and the funding gives a temperature requirement. 32 degrees is when that warming shelter will be open. And I want you to know, if you stand out there for any length of time, even at, 35, 40 degrees, it's cold. We have the option to go in our homes and get some warm, dry clothes and take a shower. They don't. When your body, if you're healthy at 40 degrees, if you're out there in the elements, you can experience hypothermia. These people are not healthy. Hypothermia has a tendency to set in quicker, and children are even more susceptible to that. And they're out there, even if you don't see them. So I just think I would like to open this conversation with you guys and encourage you to help those of us that are, trying to help these people to try and find some new ways or reframe things so that we can better address the issue, because I can guarantee you it's going to continue to grow. And it's not just here, obviously, it's a nationwide issue, but we've got to do better for these folks. And I know, that the conversation being open, I'm happy that there will be something talked about tomorrow, but it has to be constructive and productive. It cannot just be talk and then that's it. So the last thing I'm going to say to you, and then I'll let you guys go, and I hope you have a happy Thanksgiving. But I want you to know something. When I started the project that I'm doing, it was just me. But it only took a spark, and I have never seen the boots on the ground resident movement that is happening in this city. It is truly amazing. So I can't stand here and take credit for what I'm doing, because I am not by myself. You don't see them behind me, but there are people all over this city that have answered the call, whether it's knitting blankets, hats, just sharing, even if they don't have much. They're stepping up to the plate and they're like, well, here, take this, it's extra. So also be mindful as council, as the mayor, that you have kind of a hidden weapon that maybe sometimes you just don't think about, but people are willing to do something about this if given the opportunity to talk. If you guys can meet them where they are, sometimes a lot of people are intimidated to come up here, but they are willing to do the work, and I am so, so proud of this city and the people in it. I'm honored that I get to work with all these people and hear their stories. So thank you. Happy Thanksgiving.
Thank you, Ms. Reading, and we thank you for your advocacy, not only on this front, but on other fronts. So we'll have some good conversation tomorrow in regards to some informational pieces, and sharing some ideas and a path moving forward, hopefully to kind of correct this issue that we're having. So thanks you again.
That's all the petitions and remonstrances from the lobby?
Petitions and remonstrances from council members.
There are none.
Reports of standing and special committees.
We have one. We have considered the matter of a liquor license transfer from Ohio Mart Group LLC, 515 Abbey Road, to Krishna 2022 Inc., 515 Abbey Road, Elyria Food Mart.
Mr. Callahan.
Mr. President, I move this committee report be passed on its first reading under suspension of rules.
Second.
Second by Ms. Mitchell. Is there any further discussion?
Question.
On the suspension, all those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed, nay. On the passage, all those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed, nay. Motion carried.
Committee Report 2023-7. That's all the committee reports.
Resolutions first reading.
Sponsored by Finance. A resolution approving a list submitted by the Safety Service Director for the collection of delinquent inactive utility accounts and directing the Clerk of Council to certify said accounts to Lorraine County Auditor.
Mr. Tolet.
Mr. President, I ask that this resolution be passed in its first reading under suspension of rules.
Second. Second by Mr. Snyder. Is there any further discussion?
Question.
On the suspension, all those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed, nay. On the passage, all those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed, nay. Motion carried.
Resolution 2023-33. That's all resolutions first reading.
Resolution second reading.
There are none.
Resolutions third reading.
There are none.
Ordinances first reading.
Sponsored by Community Development and Finance. An ordinance authorizing the Elyria Skills City Promise Program agreement with Lorraine County Community College and declaring an emergency.
Mr. Tolet.
Mr. President, I ask that this ordinance be passed in its first reading under suspension of rules and declared an emergency.
Second. Second by Mr. Snyder. Is there any further discussion?
Question.
On the suspension, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. On the emergency, all those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed, nay. On the passage, all those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed, nay. Motion carried.
Ordinance 2023-152. Sponsored by Finance. An ordinance amending ordinance number 2022-44 to increase the not-to-exceed amount for the purchase of a dual-axle plow truck for the street department and declaring an emergency.
Mr. Tolet.
Mr. President, I ask that this ordinance be passed in its first reading under suspension of rules and declared an emergency.
Second by Ms. Davis. Is there any further discussion?
Question.
On the suspension, all those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed, nay. On the passage, all those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed, nay. On the on the emergency, clarification, on emergency, all those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed, nay. On the passage, all those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed, nay. Motion carried.
Ordinance 2023-153. Sponsored by Finance. An ordinance authorizing the mayor to enter into a professional service agreement with Rotzel and Andrus, a legal professional association for legal services, labor matters.
Mr. Tolet.
Mr. President, I ask that this ordinance be passed in its first reading under suspension of rules.
Second. Second by Ms. Davis. Is there any further discussion?
Question.
On the suspension, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. On the passage, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. Motion carried.
Ordinance 2023-154. Sponsored by Utilities and Finance. An ordinance authorizing the mayor to submit an application for the Ohio Environmental Protection Agency and accept, if offered, the water bottle refilling station grant for a new water fountain located at South Park and declare an emergency.
Mr. Tolet.
Ms. Mitchell.
Ms. Mitchell, excuse me, point of order, Ms. Mitchell.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, through you. I ask that this ordinance be passed on its first reading under suspension of rules and declared an emergency.
Second.
Second by Ms. Simmons. Is there any further discussion?
Question.
On the suspension, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. On the emergency, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. On the passage, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. Motion carried.
Ordinance 2023-155. Sponsored by Utilities. An ordinance authorizing the mayor to enter into an agreement to purchase a new Ford F-350 pickup truck for the water pumping plant through the state purchasing program or equivalent program and declare an emergency.
Ms. Mitchell.
Mr. Chair, I ask through you that this ordinance be passed on its first reading under suspension of rules and declared an emergency.
Second.
Second by Ms. Simmons. Is there any further discussion?
Question.
On the suspension, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. On the emergency, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. On the passage, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. Motion carried.
Ordinance 2023-156. Sponsored by Utilities. An ordinance authorizing the mayor to enter into a change order number 1 with MCB Paving LLC for the Washington Village Park project and declare an emergency.
Ms. Mitchell.
Mr. President, I ask that this ordinance be passed on its first reading under suspension of rules and declared an emergency.
Second.
Second by Ms. Simmons. Is there any further discussion?
Question.
On the suspension, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. On the emergency, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. On the passage, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. Motion carried.
Ordinance 2023-157. We need a roll call for executive session.
Through you, Mr. Chair, we'll need a motion first, but yes.
So I can have a motion to go into executive session.
So moved.
For pending litigation and potential action.
So moved.
Moved by Mr. Sarah.
Second.
Second by Ms. Mitchell. Roll
Question.
call. Question. Roll call.
Sorry.
Mr. Callahan?
Aye.
Mr. Sarah?
Aye.
Mr. Oswald?
Aye.
Mr. Corbin?
Aye.
Mrs. Mitchell?
Aye.
Mr. Tolet?
Aye.
Mr. Lippian?
Aye.
Mrs. Davis?
Aye.
Mrs. Simmons?
Aye.
Mr. Schneider?
Aye.
Mr. Stewart? 11 ayes.
I would ask everybody that would need to step out in regards to executive session for discussion.
Can you please let Caleb know, if you would thank Caleb?
Again? I'm sorry, will you let us know when you shut it down? Or we would just turn off your microphones and Reagan's gonna let us know when we're off the streaming.